Or put it on speakerphone.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe we should.
Lord in heaven.
Jim, we can
I
see
don't know
you.
why this happened.
Hey,
Oh
Jim.
my gosh.
So
Can you hear us, Jim? Oh, there he went. Oh dear.
joined by phone. So let's see who we have here. We have 4 committee members.
And we have Haley, who is for 385 Chequesset Neck Road. And we have
We have
Lauren,
who
Kevin,
is for 40 Way 60.
that's right.
And Lauren, who lives down the street from me at 240 Holbrook. We have Lauren.
Oh, great. Okay. And I think that Greta Masiello is supposed to be coming as well, but maybe Lauren's doing the presenting. We'll see.
I'm not sure who this says that says iPad number 2.
I think that's Jim usually. So
Well, all right. Well, we're recording, Meryl, so we can go ahead and start.
we don't yet have a quorum. We need
1, 2, 3, 4.
5 of us.
Well, if iPad 2 is Jim, then that's a quorum, but I need to know exactly who that is. So for the minutes.
Yes, and he doesn't really count unless he's truly here with us. So unfortunately, I think we need to wait until we have a quorum. I'm going to mute myself and also call Luke and see if he can join us.
And Matt Gatch too said he was coming.
Right, could you call Mac, Gordon, and I'll call
Yeah.
Luke?
I'll send him a text.
Okay, and my apologies to those of you who are here with us and waiting.
Oh, here's Matt calling now.
Oh, good.
Hey, Mac, I was just about to reach you. How are you? Oh, do you know what? Hold on for 1 second, and I will. You know, it's on the agenda. Did you get an agenda? So look towards the bottom of the agenda. No, above the agenda itself. There's a section, Historical Commission join meeting, Zoom meeting, and it has a link. Do you see that? Right above the agenda, above where it says April 6th, 2022. There's a section that has the link. Or if you go to the Town of Wellfleet website, and on the cover sheet, it'll say meetings, click or ask for more meetings. And then it'll be right there and you can click on that link.
Jim's here now, so we do have a quorum.
Really?
Sorry about that.
All right, if you
It's okay.
in the agenda above.
You're not the only one. There are other
Oh, dear.
people having issues.
All right. Okay, thanks. Matt. Okay, sure.
Jim's here with us now, Meryl, so we do have a quorum.
Yes.
Here's Matt Gatch. We're
And Mac too.
yeah.
Great.
And I
Okay.
just need to know who iPad number 2 is.
Jim, is that you? iPad number 2?
That should have been turned off, actually.
Okay, but that's
All right,
you.
well, we can
That's
ignore
me.
it. That
That
decides
is.
what-
yes.
Okay, we'll ignore that then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am Meryl Mead Fox, and I am co-chair of the Historical Commission with Gordon Kahn. You want to raise your hand, Gordon? And I would like to welcome everybody to this meeting. We now have a quorum, so we can begin. Let's see, I guess the main announcement is that Tim will need to leave us at 6:30, but we may have completed this meeting by then. Anyway, hope so. And
Interestingly, the three items that are on our agenda this evening all relate to adding solar panels to historic structures. And just to be clear, our guidelines related to that are in essence the notion, and this is also based on the Department of the Interior guidelines and various other folks, that when you add these solar panels, it's certainly fine to add them and we're all in favor of protecting the environment. However, we ask that when they be added, no significant portions or historical portions of the house on which they're being installed be ruined, so that should they ever be removed, the house will still be there intact. So to that end, our first application relates to 40 way number 60.
And is Kevin Shaw here to present?
Yes, yeah.
Great.
So
Kevin, can we see you, or are you just going to be verbal?
Yeah, I'll just be verbal, if that's okay. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Gordon will be showing the application and pictures related to it. Can you see those things as you're with
Yes,
us?
I
Okay,
can see the application, yes.
great. Okay.
So what you're proposing to do, would you like to begin by presenting, or would you like me to give a brief overview and then you tell us what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, either way, anything is fine. I have the designs open.
Okay, I mean, you're putting 15 solar panels on the roof. The total
Right.
size of the array is going to be 6.525 kilowatts. And you're using this equipment.
Yes,
Then you submitted this to us. I wonder if, in looking at this photograph now that I'm circling, you
Yep.
could sort of point me in the direction of where where way 60 is in relationship to this house. The driveway's here.
Are you with us, Kevin?
yeah, I'm
Oh, good.
trying to pull up my design. Give me 1 second, I'm sorry.
You have a tremendous number of very great looking details for the solar panels themselves, but I guess we're trying to understand from where these panels will be visible.
I see.
It would be helpful to know in that picture, in that aerial photo. That's looks like one roof line, and then the little shed, attachment dormer. Is that you can't tell if that's attached to the house or that's a separate part of the house, that little part. Yeah, that part. Can you just talk about that a little bit? That would be helpful.
All right, so do you want me to share my screen or?
That would be great.
Okay. I can show those 3 sections of the house too.
Okay, I'll stop sharing for a moment. How do I allow you to share? Oh, no. Are you do you have your screen open now and you're not, and I don't?
Yeah, I have it open, but I don't have an option to share my screen.
Okay, what if
I
I,
think you
if
have
I,
to give permission to share to somebody else.
I'm sorry, Susan, what?
I think you have to give permission to share. The meeting
Yes.
person has to do that.
I
As
have to
as
do
the
that,
host.
and I have to figure out where I can do that. Multiple participants can share. Can you share now?
I wonder if perhaps we should have Kevin go later, so that other applicants aren't having to wait while we figure this out. Well,
You know what, Kevin, also, let me just, hold on. Kevin, in looking at this, in looking at what you've given us, which I now am sharing on the screen.
Yeah.
Without sharing your screen, can you tell us where in relationship to this footprint way 60 is, and is any of this house visible from the road?
Okay. So the way 60, the street is at least 225 feet to the east of the house, and
East
between
being-
the
East is
to the right.
to the right, okay.
And between the street and this house, there is one more house. So this house is not visible from the street.
Okay,
And all three roof planes are facing 270 degrees. So that is facing the left towards the driveway, all three roof planes.
away from where the road is.
Right. Yep.
Okay, and in installing these, what will happen to the building's existing cornice? Will it be impacted by the installation of any of these panels?
So as per the code requirements, we will have to install a couple of equipment outside on the side of the house. So there will be a pipe conduit and a disconnect and one more additional meter socket on the house.
Okay, and the actual attachment of the panels to the roof of the house,
Yep.
will they be set back from the existing rake boards and the existing fascia board of the house?
So existing attachments are going to be under these panels. I'm gonna say at least 6 inches to 9 inches inside the panels. So they won't be visible from outside,
Mhm.
but there would be some rails, like an inch of rail outside the panels visible.
And if you were to remove the panels after they are installed,
Mhm.
would the house be damaged in any way, or is it just about patching up the holes that you've put these rails in?
It's just about patching up the holes.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. I'm a little confused about the location because I've been to this house. Where is the main road that goes down toward Great Island in relation to this house? Because this house is on a dirt road, right? And then there's a main road that's very close to it.
Yes.
Can you tell us where it is as we look at this drawing? Is it on?
Up, down, left, or right?
Right.
So the main road is to the right, about 200 feet.
Okay, and where is the dirt road?
The dirt road is towards south, down through which the driveway leads into.
So
Here.
on the bottom of this.
Yeah,
Okay, so am I correct that it's actually, it's quite close to the dirt road, right? But not very much traffic goes down the dirt road.
right. Yep.
Yeah, because the dirt road is way 60.
Ah,
Yeah, okay. Just to make it clear, do you follow that, Gordon, in terms of where the
Yeah.
road is?
yeah,
Okay,
that the main road is over here, but the dirt road comes around this way.
Right.
And this is the driveway here, so that conceivably coming down the dirt road, you'd see the solar panels.
yeah.
And there's a house between this house and the main road. So you can't see the house from the main road.
Right?
Exactly, yeah, and that's true.
Another house here,
And the panels are facing away anyway.
facing this way.
It looks like the panels are facing both ways. Am I wrong?
Well, it looks like, is this a ridge line here?
No,
Yeah, it's like a porch roof, just a different pitch, but facing the same
Facing
side.
in the same direction. So
Right.
this roof basically pitches this way, and then maybe it's a little bit shallower when you get
Right.
here, and it pitches in the same direction.
And so it looks like there are solar panels on both sides, on the side facing the dirt road and the side facing the road that can't see the house.
No, because if you look at the picture again, Meryl, you see that where Gordon has his marker right then, that's the roof peak.
The peak is here. It's
So all the panels are
this
to the left.
direction, and it's somewhat
Oh,
steep slope,
okay,
and then it has a porch attached with a more shallow slope.
okay, thank
Both
you.
pitches are going in the same direction.
Okay, follow you. Okay, great. Any other questions?
The little attached portion where the little parts of, that's like just a little attached, like shed or entryway or little building. That's attached to the main house though, right?
Yeah, it's an entryway.
Okay,
And it's kind of like a sun porch, right?
Yes,
Okay,
it's attached to the main house. Yeah.
Mhm.
okay. And that has solar panels on top, am I correct?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Okay,
Does
any other
any
questions?
questions? Does anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal as submitted.
I second that motion.
I'm going to recuse myself from this vote because Karen Friedman is a friend of mine.
Okay.
I vote aye.
Jim, I.
Susan, I.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tim, okay. Thank you very much.
Did we get a vote from everyone?
Yes, I think that was Mitch. You said
Great.
I, right?
Mac, you mean?
Mac,
I'm sorry.
Mac said aye, Tim said aye, Jim said
Yeah.
aye, I said
Said
aye.
I. Meryl recused. I think we're good.
Okay, thanks very much, Kevin. Appreciate your
Thank
company.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, and the next presentation is for 385 Chiquesset Neck Road. This is a house built in 1870. And Haley Bourne is going to be presenting, I believe.
Mhm.
Haley, are you with us? Yes. Thanks for unmuting.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi. Are
Haley.
we going to be able to see you or do
Let
you?
me see. My camera gives me issues sometimes, but let me see if I can do this.
Okay,
So we had on record a Form B for this house, and here it is. Historically, the James F. Graham House, constructed in approximately 1862. And it's located in a fairly prominent part of town, right at the intersection of Chiquesset Neck Road and Kendrick Avenue. I'm sure we've all driven by it many times.
I watched the Northern Lights from the front yard of that house when I was a little kid. Just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In any case, it's a prominent house and it's significant, and there is a Form B on it. So let's take a look at what the proposal is.
Ellie, can you just tell me how to spell your last name?
Yep, it's Bourne, Bourne.
Great, thanks.
I think in this case, Todd Barry is applying. It's a residence. We're going to have roof mounted solar panels. And here's an aerial view of the house.
and is that supposed to be showing us where the solar panels are as well, Gordon?
I don't believe it is.
I
No.
did send, I sent in some actual pictures that our site auditors had taken of the home just to kind of visualize where they're gonna go.
Here we go.
They'll
That's
be at the back of the house where the chimney is, and then towards the front of the house, which can't be seen by street view.
So I think this can help us right here understand it pretty well, right? Chiquesset Neck Road comes down here.
Yep.
And Kendrick Avenue kind of goes off in this direction here. So you're proposing, these are the proposed panels here?
Yep.
Here, 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 and here.
Mhm. So am I correct that the panels that are on the left-hand side of this drawing basically show from the road, and the ones that are on the bottom face the driveway more? Am I correct about that?
Yes, there are some trees. However, looking at the street view of the home, you can see where the panels will be going because they're going on both sides of that chimney, which is what you can see from street view, according to Google.
Uh-huh.
And once again, you know, we want to make sure that if the panels were ever to be removed, the historic portions of the house would still be intact.
Yes,
And I assume your proposal allows for that by elevating them off the roof.
it
And
does.
by not cutting through any cornices or rake boards or anything that.
Yep, correct. They'll sit parallel to the roof, but raised up. They do follow the rake of the roof, and all our conduit run is interior as well.
Okay, good. This is what you were talking about right there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And this, we don't know what that means. Okay. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Can I see the picture of the house again, the photograph?
Sure. Maybe. It was on the Form B.
Well, that's all right.
No, I've got it right here, Mac. There you go.
Are there other, I guess, so it looks like you don't have the pictures that were sent in, but
I didn't see
that right?
it sent in onto our address. I downloaded everything I had.
okay.
Maybe this gives you a better idea.
Yeah, so that's the roof where the solar panels will be, where that chimney is. Am I correct, Haley?
Yes, you are correct.
And I actually went by there today and took a picture. That whole roof line, just in case anybody else wasn't able to go, that's all showing from the road.
It is.
Yes,
We should just be aware of that. Yeah,
It is. And here it's less conspicuous.
right. Yeah.
But here it's conspicuous. And in fact, the Barrys have erected this screen so they have more privacy on their porch because
Yeah.
cars do drive by along here.
Mhm.
And that chimney is later, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have any comments? Does anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal as presented.
I'll second it.
Aye,
Can you say who you are as you say aye?
aye.
Mac, aye. Merrill, aye.
Tim, I.
Jim, I.
Gordon, aye.
Susan, I.
Okay, thanks very much, Haley. You're all
Thank you
set.
so much.
This is 240 Holbrook Avenue. Hey, Lauren, can you unmute?
Hello,
Hi, Lauren, welcome.
Hey,
Hi.
Lauren, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? So there should be someone from Sunroom here to present this. I think his name's Steve.
Yeah. I don't see any. Oh, wait.
He said he was just calling in. I just spoke to him about 15 minutes prior to the meeting.
Oh, yes. Is it Stephen Kelly?
I think it's Steve. I didn't catch his last
He's
name.
he's there and he needs to unmute.
He needs
So-
to unmute. Here.
There.
Hi, Stephen.
Are you with us, Stephen?
I hope so. I'm also trying to use my.
There he is.
We hear you. So, it's a little hard to hear you, though. Can you turn it up at all?
I.
That's good.
I typically call in. I called in on 0473.
I can't hear you, Stephen. I'm sorry.
Can't hear you.
Called in on 0473.
He's saying he called in on 0473, but I don't know what that means.
It should be 929
Oh, no,
205.
my phone number ends in 0473.
Sorry, Stephen, we can't hear you.
His phone number ends in 0473. We can see you, Stephen. We can see that you're on. We just can't hear you.
We can hear bits and pieces, but we can't hear it. The connection is really that poor. It's not that you're not connected at all.
Lauren, can you tell us where the panels are going? Maybe let me
Is that
see.
any better?
Yes,
That's
that's
much
better.
better.
Not much.
So this is a house that is in a prominent spot on Holbrook Avenue as you're driving from Main Street towards the harbor. It's on your left. Lauren's recently painted it gray, which is actually, I think personally, I find very attractive.
Good.
And slowly over time, Lauren and her family have worked on kind of restoring this house in a loving and careful way. I have observed that.
Thank you.
The house dates to the 1860s. It's Greek revival. And again, it is part of that whole part of downtown Wellfleet that involves Holbrook and Railroad and that whole sort of area where there are lots of examples of these and there's very consistent architecture. This is the application here. So this is an aerial view, and here is Holbrook Avenue. This is street facing. This is also street facing. Here and here and here. And the proposed location of panels, 1, 2, 3, and then back here where it's not street facing anymore. So this is a rendering prior to Lauren having painted the house gray and cleaned it up of where you would see panels. And again, Holbrook Avenue is right here. So you certainly will see these. Again, here.
You
There's a
can see
tree
it
there.
next to Arbutus, which is the yellow house on the right.
Right, exactly. When the rail was there.
Mhm.
So in essence, we're being asked to approve the installation of solar panels on a historic house that contributes to the whole look and the historic character of the Wellfleet Historic District, and the panels will be visible. Are you installing the panels in such a way that it will not impact any of the historic portions of the building, such as cornices, chimneys, rake boards?
Yes, I would say typically most installations would not affect any of those.
Okay, but specifically this installation will not.
Correct. We use the black on black panels to try to sort of melt it in,
Mhm.
panels without grid marks and the black frames.
Installing solar panels is a good thing. And it's not always attractive, but it's a good thing nonetheless. Does anybody have any?
Future, it's the way of the future. It's something we're just gonna have to have.
Yeah, does anybody have any comments?
No, I just want to confirm, I couldn't really hear you, Stephen, that no damage will be done to the structure of the building in order to install these. That couldn't be easily repaired or, mitigated.
That's correct.
Okay.
I have a question. In that photograph, the panels on the right on the wing are north facing. Can they really collect, or are they redundant?
I would say they wouldn't be putting them there if they couldn't collect. That's something that design takes care of, and they're in the business to generate. So I would say it does generate.
In midsummer, I guess it would.
Yeah, in the summer, definitely.
But Mac makes a good point. Both Mac's house and my house are sort of parallel to this house.
Right.
And so we've experienced the way the light comes.
Mhm.
And it's mostly sort of to the right where that tree is, that you get the most light.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for you there. I do know they, will take all the angles and heights of the trees and everything else and take that into consideration when they do these designs.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions or comments about this property and this project? Okay, do we have a motion?
I will move to approve the proposal as presented.
I will second the motion.
Gordon, aye.
Mac, aye.
Jim, I.
Tim, I.
Susan, I.
Okay.
Okay. Nice to have you with us, Luke.
Great.
Congratulations, Lauren, you're all set.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Lauren. Good to see you.
Thanks for meeting with us.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Dave, about the connection.
Thank you. Okay, we have a full slate of commissioners. Nice to have you all with us. So glad you're here, Luke, because one of the things we're talking about next is rescheduling our May meeting, which is the next item on the agenda. It turns out that both Gordon and I will be traveling in May. Gordon luckily is able to be here on May 11th, and Jim has very kindly agreed to co-lead and do essentially what I do usually for the meeting, because I'm going to be out west visiting our kids, which I'm very excited about. So thank you so much for doing that, Jim. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
So I just would like to get a raising of hands of who is able to make it on May 11th. We did some discussion about it online. What I wrote notes that Mac and Gordon and Tim are all able to be there on May 11th here.
I can be as well.
Oh, good. So Susan's all set. Jim and Luke, do you have any idea? Oh, of course.
Yes,
Jim is. And Luke, I realize you're driving and you might not know right now, but if you could let me know, that would be great.
I don't see any problem with that.
Okay, great. Wonderful to hear. Okay, so we will have our next meeting on May 11th, and I'll be able to do the agenda before I leave. I'm thinking about just keeping the deadline the same as our usual date to not make it too confusing, and posting it before I go so that it's just done and you don't have to worry about that part.
Sounds good.
great, yeah.
Okay, great.
All right.
All right, so that's it for that. And then the next item is about the Form Bs, and Jim has been so terrific about taking on the organization about this.
Wait, Meryl, the WHC design guidelines posted on the town website?
Oh, I have yeah, that's for later, I thought, but all right.
Oh.
Yeah, that's way down on number 9 on mine.
We're on number 5. We're on number 5.
Number 5.
Now perhaps I have an outdated agenda.
Sorry. All right. Well, I'll lead you through it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next item is about the Form Bs and the historic plan. And Jim has been organizing the editing of Eric Dre's Form Bs, which Eric Dre has agreed to finish up with the Mass Historical Commission once we get the funds, which hopefully we'll be able to do if the town meeting ever happens. So I just wanted to check in with you, Jim, about how the editing's going.
Well, I proofread about 20 of the
Oh,
Form
my.
Bs, and they were very competently done and interesting to read. Susan has volunteered to help me with this, and I don't know if there'll be other people who would like to participate. I'd be happy to provide
I'd be happy
Form
to.
Bs to them. Very good.
Jim, why don't you divvy up which ones you want us to do and just like send us the chunk and we'll just do them and get them back to you.
I think you've done your part, Jim. I thought you were going to spread it out among the group. So feel free to split the rest of
Yeah.
them between Susan
Well,
and
it went
Matt.
easily because they were very well done.
Good.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thanks so much for doing all that you've done on that.
Sure.
And thanks to Mac and Susan too for being willing to do them. Okay, and then Jim's also on the next item, which is about creating, actually, both Jim and Susan, about creating a website for the Historical Commission. And Jim sent out a draft of the website content outline earlier this month. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at it. Do you want to do a little intro, either of you, about this?
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, Susan and I collaborated on it, and I think it's sort of self-evident what's there. I'd be interested in people's comments and maybe suggestions about what the contents would be. Susan, would you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main, it's like any web page, like you go to the first page and that's always there, and you need on that tab like our charter, our mission, who we are, and maybe a list of us that's kept current, who's on it, and then the contact information for the commission, and then a link to the meeting schedules, and a link to our minutes and agendas. So you can just click on that and see whatever one you want to go, and then other links for maybe our architectural history, a map of the town and the historic districts, then how we work, the review process, demolition delays, all that kind of stuff, the application. I don't know if we want to have a folder for current applications up on the website, or is that just too much of a pain to keep? That's something we could do, is we could have, other towns do have all the current applications available for people to review.
Oh, I don't know if we want to do that. That seems like a
Could be
lot of.
opening a can of worms for all we know, but we can take that out. And then something about researching your own home, that you can find information in Macris and link to the historic structures inventory and stuff like that.
Great.
And then other resources people can go to, like Historic New England.
The first thing everybody wants to do is to find their own house. So that's a really important thing that'll suck right into the website.
Right.
And
then a section that's like historic preservation guidelines and resources, like the Secretary of Interior standards, their standards for sustainability guidelines that they just came out for Historic New England, white papers, and And then frequently asked questions if we want to do that. So it's kind of like we have all that. It's just kind of putting it, linking it and moving it around places. That's
Okay.
really what we were thinking of.
Sounds good. I had some questions because I was going back through our town website and what we have there and what's included and what's not included. And I don't know if you had reasons that you didn't include certain things, but what I noticed is there's not anything on here anyway about frequently asked questions. I think that part of our current website on the town website needs to be tightened up a little bit, but I think it might be helpful to have something that is.
No, we do
Yeah,
have
we do have
a
that.
question section.
Okay, where is it?
Well, it was on one I sent Jim. I don't know if
Oh, I
he.
see
Yeah,
it.
it's there. It's
Highlighted, okay, yeah.
next to
okay,
last.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, and I think the idea is that the town website will have just that introductory page. And then a link, which would be our charter and mission, who we are, who's on it, contact information, meeting schedules, and agendas and links, and then a link to this website.
Is there a
So that-
simple thing somewhere? Do I have to appear before the commission?
Yes, we could do that.
That seems like it would be a
That's a
really
great idea.
important thing to,
Yes.
I want to find my house and I want to know if I have to go before the commission.
Good point. We can put that right on that opening page that can be in both places, you know.
And let's see, some of the other things that are on, well, there's the Instagram link. I don't know if you wanted to leave that out.
I know we could do that. Instagram link, sure.
Okay. I think it's a good idea just because there's more information about the houses there.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great, you've been doing a great job on that.
Thank you.
We can certainly include an Instagram link.
Mhm.
And then it looked like there wasn't anything about historic preservation tax credits. Did I miss it?
That's not there.
Okay.
That's not, I mean, part of that is, are there historic preservation tax credits?
Well, that's the thing,
Yes.
really primarily for commercial properties.
Yeah,
But
as far as I know, it's for not-for-profits, commercial properties.
I think
don't
it
think
would be
they're-
good to explain that though, because people always ask and it saves us from having to answer the question if it's there. And I think that we could do some work on just a little more investigating about what kinds of possibilities are out there for funding. Maybe there's not anything, but
I know there's a HUD program for homeowners, but yeah, we can do that. That can be something we might be farming out to everybody else, kind of doing a little research into this, some of these subject matters, but yeah, no, I think sounds fine.
okay, great. But it looks wonderful. It's a great start. Thanks.
Sure. I mean, basically what we'll do is Jim and I will like tidy it up and add and subtract things and then do you want to review it before we send it to, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name.
Andrea.
Andrea, thank you.
Yeah.
To Andrea, the website designer.
Yeah, I think Gordon and I both wanted to
Okay.
go over it once you have, the material together.
Okay.
And I also, Susan, I don't know if you remember, but before you went away, I had talked to you about how I have all these resources from Maria Burks, who used to be the co-chair before I joined.
You did mention that. Yes, you did. And yeah.
I need to send you that information and then you and Jim can decide what you want to use as links. But I think there are a lot of useful resources there that we might want to include as
Okay.
links on the website.
Great.
Okay, any other questions or comments about the website?
Well, I mean, I think that you guys have done an awesome job. I was looking through it. It seems really comprehensive. I think that if it's a possibility, I'd offer my services to go either meet with Andrea at some point so that I could edit it, because it sounds like we have a lot of ideas and then adding things and changing. And instead of trying to get it all perfect, and then it's this thing that goes out there and then it's kind of stuck, like we should be able to edit over time. And I'm happy to
Absolutely.
take that on.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic because that's the one thing that's the platform that we want to use, which is, I'm also totally blanking on Jim. What was the name of that platform?
Squarespace.
Squarespace, thank you.
Yeah.
It's very easy to go in and edit and update.
Yeah,
So
when I ran restaurants, I used to edit the menu every day.
Right.
So this is something I could totally do. And then that way, if we think of something later we want to add, it can quickly be done.
That's
It takes
great.
like 5 minutes. So I'm happy to do that.
fabulous. That's
Yeah,
great.
Great,
Yeah, we'll include you in our meetings with going forward. That would be great.
wonderful.
Yeah, excellent.
All right, so exciting to be getting this together. We really appreciate the work you're putting into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I find my house? And do I need to come before the commission?
We got it.
Yes.
That's like,
Fundamental.
Yeah, that's what we need to make the most clear. And
Right.
Okay, that's good to know. We can net that out right off the bat.
okay. So the next item is April presentations for Protect Our Past. There's an organization that runs out of Chatham called our Protect Our Past, which was founded and is now run by a woman named Ellen Briggs. And she called me after our last meeting and asked if we had somebody that could do a radio spot for 15 minutes and somebody who could do, originally it was a Zoom presentation. So it was all very, it felt rather last minute. So, and Susan was away. And so I asked Gordon if he would do the radio interview, and he very kindly agreed, even though he's extremely busy this month. And
30 on Friday. I go to WOMR Studios.
Fun.
Ellen has called me already. We've had a Zoom to talk about it, and I just received a script for it in which
Sorry,
repeat
what time is this? Because I will 100% be tuning into this.
I don't know when it's going to air, but my name is spelled wrong
oh,
all over the thing. Literary people? Isn't this journalism?
here, well,
I just got the
she's
script. That's
definitely
what I
going to
was looking
spell
at.
my name wrong if she spelled your name wrong. Mine is harder.
I actually spoke to her. Is this the group that you put me in touch with, Meryl, about it? So if anybody's interested, they're looking for a part-time employee, but a pretty heavy hours to. They want to add information about preservation opportunities in every single town, and they want to work with local historic districts in every town to identify those things, those kind of at-risk properties that could use some, and they do it using film. So this is like a documentary thing. They have an incredible board of all these people from, Hollywood and New York. So it's pretty interesting, but
No, it's modified. They're really interested in the whole notion of, is it possible to live in a historic structure today and be comfortable in that structure the way people live today? And what can be done to historic structures so that they remain, so we keep as much of the historic portion as possible. It was sort of, and Wellfleet seems to do a better job of doing that than other towns like Chatham, for example, or the Vineyard, where things are, torn down and, these, fake shingle style houses are ubiquitous.
Yeah, it's interesting because working in historic preservation here at my job, one of the things that historic preservationists really freak out about is the fact that there's no interior controls over any interior changes to historic properties. So really architectural history that's really lost by just gutting an historic, even if you keep the exterior structure, which thank goodness we're at least doing that. But
in New York City now, the Landmarks Preservation Commission can see inside 5 feet.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So if you're outside, you're looking in the window, you've got to keep that first 5 feet, which kind of tells you what you have to do to the other feet. You can't really-
That's really interesting. I love it. I love it. So anyway, so they highlight kind of success stories where they look at some beautiful historic structure and somebody's completely redone it, but they've done it, with a lot of thoughtfulness and sensitivity to the historic nature of the house, but they haven't, it's not like a restoration. It's like a modern use in an old house.
Mhm.
Part of it also saves Wellfleet in a way has to do with zoning. Just the scale of things is pretty much what the scale of things is.
Yeah.
It just isn't room to
Yep.
build a ton of McMansions.
Yeah. So, so Gordon and I are both being recorded on Friday. I'm going to Chatham to be recorded. They actually changed. I couldn't believe this. They gave me 4 different renditions of what they wanted this presentation to be. So, I stopped them after 3.
Well, I just got at 4:49 today. I've gotten my script.
Good. Yeah. We'll see how it all goes. And I don't know when mine is going to be. So mine went from being a Zoom presentation to a podcast, and then she wanted to change it to an interview, kind of like what Gordon's doing. And so I'm just doing a recording that's going to be on a podcast, and it probably won't be very interesting, but the talk itself is interesting. I'm not sure if the format will work as well as a Zoom presentation would. Whatever.
Well,
So-
it's good to get, PR
Yeah.
out there and talk about what we do and why we do it. So that's always good.
Exactly. So I'm actually gonna be talking about the Baker Biddle House because it really comprises the history of Wellfleet in a lot of ways, starting out with what we know about the Native Americans that lived at Bound Brook and moving through L.D. Baker being born there, and then Jack Hall living there and designing the Hatch House, and then the Biddle family being there, and all the different preservation groups that have been involved in saving the buildings on Bound Brook. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. So that's that. And then
Did you guys notice, just as an aside, that there was this list of underrated towns on a state level, one for each state, that are these
No.
fantastic places that are sort of under the radar? And for Massachusetts, it was Wellfleet.
Really?
who knew we were underrated?
I
And
don't
who knew we
want
were not on the radar?
to.
You say to anybody in New York, I'm going to Wellfleet, everybody knows what that
Here in
is.
August, do they know how on the radar we are?
God. I'm dreading it.
I don't think I want to be on that list.
It's the guy who wrote it lives in Wellfleet.
Oh,
Or he
Yeah.
lives on the border of Wellfleet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
so is he just trying to do PR and get us even more tourism? Is that?
We don't have any more room.
Okay, so the next item is about future presentations. And I partly wanted to just check in with each of you, but I also wanted to let you know that another new thing has come up. But why don't we start with what's going on? So how are things going with the Realtor presentation, Tim?
It's good. I've started to put together a PowerPoint based on what Gordon and I talked about. My question was whether or not, happy to do this whenever, and it might be a good time to go soon as things pick up July and August.
Yeah.
But didn't know if we should wait until the website is up. That was sort of my question, is if we're still waiting on people to get information.
Yeah.
I'm happy to move forward with it. It's been a crazy 2 weeks finishing our house, but now I have plenty of more time to
It would
lay
be
this
so
out.
helpful though, Tim, for you to be able to say, here's our web address.
That's sort of what I was thinking,
So,
but
I think you could still, if you give them the town web address, most of the information is on there that we're talking about. And eventually that will have the web link to our own website. So I wouldn't hold up for that.
yeah,
reason.
and I was thinking also we could just say, for now this works and be prepared for another website coming in the next month or so or whatever it is.
Let's not
But
say
yeah,
month. Let's not say month. Let's say next few months.
all right. Within the next foreseeable future
Be
time.
vague.
Yeah.
So one problem with the town website is that I've discovered that the Macros directions for getting on the find the house inventories is outdated now. They've changed the whole system at the Mass Historical Commission. So I guess what we'll need to do is if you could just keep in touch with me about that so that I know when you're going forward, that would be great, because I need to communicate with Rebecca, and it can sometimes take a while to get the changes put onto the website. Do you follow me?
Yeah, for the presentation, so the people
Well,
can access.
Well, I just want to be, I think the main thing that realtors are going to be concerned about is how to get the information about the houses they're selling that are historic. And if they don't have a way to do that easily through the town website, that's the question. We need to figure out how to change the direction so that people can follow them and access the historic inventories now that they've changed the system at Mass Historic.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely, once I feel like I've got something ready to go, I'll contact you so that way we can have that information ready to go for people.
Great. Okay.
Because I think Gordon and I were talking, this is going to be a less than half an hour. So I think that if you schedule the long meetings, no one's going to come, or they'll leave halfway through and not. And we'll probably try to schedule it for, I've already been talking strategy, like a Monday, Tuesday. If you don't know, in the real estate world, everything starts coming up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday now, and then everyone's crazy. So Tuesday's like the pocket. So that's probably, we'll do that hopefully within the next month. I don't see a reason why not.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'll try to move it on the direct.
Can I just confirm? So you're putting together this PowerPoint and you're going to be, in the next month, hopefully be able to present.
Yep. And I think
Um,
Gordon's going to join me on this, correct?
Yes, I will join you.
Great. And
And
you're
then-
doing, are you doing
and
it
then-
as a Zoom presentation or live?
Yeah, I think we're going to do a Zoom presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
great.
And then Meryl, you're gonna work on updating the macros, you know,
Instructions. yeah.
instructions and putting it to the town website, what town.
Unless somebody else wants to do it, I'd be happy to pass that on.
I'm not volunteering.
I see no one jumping up and down. I don't know.
I'm not sure I understand how to do it myself. Consequently, I would feel badly. My search for Form Bs on the Macros site has unfailingly turned up 0, and I go to our drive, Google
Yeah,
Drive,
thank
and I
God
find
for-
them there every time.
Yeah, thank God for Susan.
Yes, that's for Susan. It's so helpful. That's where I find
Organized
everything.
all there.
The
Yep.
Macros thing, I searched for 3 properties, which I know were there, and it kept coming up, no results, no results.
Oh,
no
weird.
results.
That's weird.
That's because the directions are wrong now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I'll try to fix that. Okay, and then the Modern House Trust.
So Peter and I have traded phone messages, as you know, and Peter's interested in doing this.
Uh-huh.
I think we could kind of find out sort of within ourselves when we think we might want to do it, so that when I call him next, I'll be able to give him some idea of when we're thinking about doing it. Is it a fall kind of thing?
Well, that's the question. Why don't I tell you about this other option and then we can decide what we want to do.
Okay.
I think we have enough money for 2 presentations, so maybe we could do 2, but it probably makes sense to maybe do one in the fall and maybe do one in the winter sometime.
Mhm.
What happened on my end was that this is rather complicated, but all of you may have noticed, well, those of you who are in town may have noticed that the Bradford apartments on Commercial Street have been lifted. And they're putting, this is the thing that we met about. It's rather complicated, actually, because they've gone ahead with the foundation, even though they do not have a building permit. And building inspector has been in touch with them about this, and it's all rather complicated. And I don't think I'll get into all the details, but Sarah Korchev, who's the preservation specialist at the Cape Cod Commission, contacted me about it because Shannon Hulst, who's the floodplain and CRS specialist, whatever that is, for the state.
Climate resiliency, probably climate resiliency.
She had been in touch with Sarah about this property and about basically sort of what the historic so basically the way it works with FEMA guidelines is you can get an exception if a house is historic, so that you don't need to go by the FEMA floodplain guidelines. And so they're getting involved around that. And this brings up the issue that we've kind of touched on in the last couple of meetings about the complex issues involved with historic preservation and FEMA map floodplain areas in towns. And of course, Commercial Street and Wellfleet and Commercial Street and P-Town are going to be dealing with this as we go forward with sea rise and climate change and all of that. So Sarah mentioned when we spoke that she and this woman, Shannon Hulst, are actually trying to draw up guidelines about this very issue. And she said, do you think Wellfleet might be interested in having us come and do a presentation on this sometime in the fall? And I thought that would be awesome, because I think we all, clearly we need to keep trying to address this. The planning board doesn't quite know. I mean, they're trying to address this. The energy committee, which is also the energy and climate change committee now, is also talking about this, but we don't have any firm plans about how the town wants to go forward about these issues.
So I'm just going to interject for something. Sorry. Do you want to keep going and I'll talk after you finish?
Go ahead.
So the the Secretary of the Interior also last year put out new standards for sustainability and flooding for historic properties, which is an addendum basically to the guidelines that we use. And there's a copy of that on the drive.
Yeah, I sent it to everyone.
Good. So that is what we should be following when people come to us for any kind of climate adaptation to work beyond solar panels. So, but I don't know what what the Cape Cod Commission, I'm sure they're using that as a basis for. And I don't know what Shannon Host, I don't know who she works for, Cape Cod Commissioner, she works for somebody else. I'm not sure who that is, but
I think she works for this. Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I mean,
I think it'd be great to have them come talk, but I think there's a lot going on in
there's a
that.
lot going on and people really don't know. I mean, it's complicated. And there's the
Yeah.
question, if you replace more than 50% of the value, then the whole thing has to comply with FEMA. But if it's a historical property, maybe it doesn't because it qualifies for an exception, and sort of what constitutes a truly historical property that would qualify for an exception,
And there are
as
things you
opposed to
can
people
do.
just coming in and saying, I have a historical property, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So it becomes really a problem for us. It becomes a problem for the building department, and it becomes a problem for the planning department. And it is currently a problem
And
because
it's,
of what's gone on in the back. Well, I'm sorry.
sorry. And it's an opportunity to be planful, I think. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the town in general needs to plan for this, and we need to plan
Oh
for
my
it.
God. The
Yeah.
town really needs to plan for this.
So I actually went through the design guidelines from the Department of the Interior in detail, and that's what Sarah and I were talking about, because she of course has too. And the problem is that they kind of have ideas, but the guidelines aren't actually all that helpful. And so that's why they're trying to draw up guidelines for Cape Cod, because they want to have something that's simpler and easier for historical commissions to use, I think. And for towns to use, because you know.
Yeah, because there are two matters at hand. One of which is someone comes to us and no one's asking them to raise their house or do anything like that, but they are doing things to it, and they want to do it in such a way that they, help mitigate some of the possible damage from future flooding. The other circumstance is when so much of the house is being renovated that FEMA requires that the whole thing be raised as a result of that. And, what is the course of action there? What's the right thing to do? Maybe it should be raised. I mean, I would hate to see it, but you have questions about what the right answer to any of this is. And then you have the other thing where someone says it's an emergency and I have to do this now. And then all this work proceeds without a permit, which is scary to me.
Yeah.
So,
But, and I think particularly when you're talking about places like Commercial Street, which I live on, and others, like if you look at the FEMA maps, those will be underwater, soon
Yeah.
enough at high tide, regular high tide. So
yeah.
particularly the houses along the
On the base, yeah.
basin, yes. So I think all those houses are going to have flooding in their basements. All those houses have the utilities probably in the basements.
Mhm.
But there are all sorts of things that we're going to have to deal with, because people are going to want to put in, use other parts of the building, or put on sheds, or I don't know what, raise utilities somehow. So,
Well, they're going to look for other way. They're going to look for things to.
right. So it's going to come before us, and we have to have some guidelines about how to handle
That seems like it's a really important presentation. Modern houses are nice and everything.
Right.
That would be cool. I'll talk to Peter about that some more.
I
But
think that would be more interesting, like the sustainability part of it, the floodplain would be more interesting for homeowners in town, like, whereas the modern house one might draw people who don't necessarily own property here. So maybe that would be a really great fall or winter.
That could be a winter. Modern houses could be a winter kind of thing. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Well, that could be cool, yeah.
This could be a fall thing.
Yeah.
And if they're ready to give us the information.
She said she thought they would have them together by the fall. I think we'll need to sort of stay in touch about it. So another question I have for all of you about this is I'll need to talk to Sarah about it as well, but there are a couple of different ways we could do this. We could do it just as a historical commission sponsored event, or we could do it as part of the community forum and have some of these other groups like the planning board and the energy committee be involved. I think my leaning is to have it just be a historical commission event, because we have funding for it, and it makes it sort of more directed on what our concerns are, and then maybe encourage them to have a community forum with these other committees that work together on this. But any of you have an opinion?
I mean, I think that's a great idea. I think it would be nice to make sure we invite the members of those committees to the.
But not have them be hosts.
Right. They don't have to be hosts, but to get them involved and say, we want to work with you.
Certainly.
This can impact all of us. So
Right.
it's kind of a good starting point.
Great, I'll do that. All right. Any other thoughts or comments about any of that?
I think it's real interesting, the FEMA and how it affects the some of the potential projects. There's also with just a dollar amount spent if you exceed 50% of the
Oh, the value.
what a house is worth.
Yeah.
They can, of the value of the house, they can, the local building officials can request that you bring the complete house up to the most modern code inside and out, every inch of the house.
Right.
You know, that we could come up against that also. And I mean, at what point do you say that you, you know, have to have people reel in the dollar amount they want to spend on a potential project to not exceed that certain amount? Because then you're talking about basically replacing houses or tearing some of the houses down to
Yeah.
you know, accommodate the most modern code. And we come up against that with fire codes. There's all types of areas. I mean, some of the houses are so close together, they might require cement board siding between the two of them and this and that. And, you know, there's all kinds of areas, not just FEMA, but, and also, you know, if people know how to use some of that stuff to their advantage, they could easily demonstrate that they should have, they should be allowed to tear down a house based on some of this.
Right.
You know, if a client they want to spend $800,000 on a house that's worth $1 million, there they can knock it down. No questions asked. You know, so I think that's all really examined, but it FEMA stuff.
Thank you, Luke. That's really helpful to be aware of all of that. And you're right, we need to be thinking about all of those things. It makes me, this isn't really on the agenda, so I get, but, well, I don't, so Gordon and I are meeting monthly now with Jim Badera, which is wonderful, the new building inspector. And he wants very much to work with us, and he's staying in close communication with us about historic buildings. So that will help with this, but clearly it's an ongoing discussion, and let's keep talking about it because it's
Yeah, and I think, you know, it would be great to maybe have, if Sarah and Shannon want to do this, maybe have a FEMA representative come, and maybe we have people come talk to us about, you know, worst case scenario, you have a house, an historic house that's in the floodplain that's going to get flooded, right? What are your options? What do you do given all these regulations and guidelines? And, you know, I think that might be interesting.
well,
If someone, I mean, just as a general question, let's say someone came to us with a historic house that was in the floodplain that was really vulnerable, and it had to be raised up 8 feet. How would we feel about that?
Well, if you read those guidelines by the Interior Secretary of the Interior, that would be acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is acceptable because I think it saves the
It's the
house.
same with taking utilities out of the basement and using the basements basically as a cistern, you know, in a way, or as a flow through for tidal flow.
And putting air handlers in the attic and all that instead of in the cellar. And we
there's all
do that.
sorts of that people- I
We
mean,
do that.
I know
We do
from
that.
museums, like lots of museums are doing that who are on the water right now,
Yeah.
and including, so we're working with coastal zone management to get a grant to get adaptation plans for our site, long and short term, because we're right on the water. We're already close to being underwater. So
you're a wonderful resource for us, Susan.
well, I'm just saying that there's a lot out there, and
We were doing a house.
want to know, homeowners want to know, like,
Yeah.
what can I do? What are the options? What should I think about? Because we're all going to have to move our utilities at some point, if we,
Right.
particularly Wellfleet.
Yeah.
You know, what are some things you can think about doing now that might help you, that are not that expensive? Things like gates and, you know, stormwater. There's all sorts of things you can do.
When
But
that Superstorm Sandy came to New York,
oh my God,
this south coast of Long Island, particularly just as you pass out of Queens and you get to a little sort of enclave called Atlantic Beach and then to Long Beach, was severely impacted. And we are doing 2 new houses right now in Atlantic Beach. And they have had to really examine it, and the finished floor level is You know, when we're doing an Amagansett, it's 19 feet, and at Atlantic Beach, it's 14 feet.
Yeah.
And it's based on exactly where the floodplain goes in and out, and no, you're slightly in this and you're slightly in that. And then what do you do with the surrounding land when you've got this house sort of elevated and
Picking up. Well,
And,
the South Carolina coast has all those houses that are just raised, you know, the whole
Yeah.
bottom of the, you know, floor of the house is just a pass through for water.
we were trying to find an architectural vocabulary that sort of lends itself more towards the idea of floating above a sand dune as opposed to a shingle style house floating in the air, right? So it's sort of a modernist, almost like the Hatch House
Right,
floats.
right.
So we sort of used that as sort of the basis for what we did at an Amagansett. It's being built now. It looks good. It's
Oh,
not too tall. Looks like it's floating. It's kind of long. You know, it's okay.
Which is the ideal profile for something like that. It's the houses that, you know,
With
are
a big,
vertical
with a
that-
big peak roof, with shingles and all the stuff that falls off them and blows into people. But let's just say that like in Amagansett, for example, there is no equipment on the ground. I mean, there is nothing because there's no swimming pool, there's zero, because if it floods and you have your air conditioning unit there, you don't know where that air conditioning unit's gonna wind up in whose other house or what damage it's gonna do somewhere else.
Yeah.
So everything is up.
Mhm.
Everything is up. Anyway, it's interesting. In Atlantic Beach, same thing. We had to go up to 14 feet. We built a retaining wall and we raised the site actually by a
It's just
couple of
block-
feet and then
it's just
sloped it
block-
up.
I'm sorry.
What?
The
No,
city
what?
of Boston did a whole sustainability report that looks at different types of building, commercial, non-commercial, that show all the kinds of solutions homeowners and building owners and property owners might need to employ, I mean, for apartment buildings, for all the stuff that are more historic, that are really pretty interesting. And I don't
Because
know-
I don't know, I mean, I'm talking about these two houses in particular were new houses, so we had carte
Right.
blanche to do whatever we needed to do in
Which is-
order to make
which
it
is
look
helpful.
good. Right, but I mean, when you've got, you know,
Yeah.
the Bradford,
So Susan, who did you say has those?
Boston, City of Boston, I can send you a link to it.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Thank you.
And there's lots of other, there's also a really interesting group. So I actually want to get in touch with the energy, whatever town committee is doing work. I'd like to get in touch with them and kind of volunteer to be involved, because there's a whole group called Keeping History Above Water, which was founded by the Newport Restoration Foundation. You know, they own 84 houses in Newport, historic buildings. And so many of which are underwater
Yeah.
at high tides.
Yeah.
So they've really started kind of pushing the envelope about what to do. And they've done some really interesting reports and studies and proposals that I can send you the links to those too.
Oh, that's great. So my husband is on the energy committee as well as the planning board. And he cares very much about these issues. So I could put you in touch with him.
I would love to talk to him. That would be great. If you could just introduce
Okay,
us,
thank
I'll
you.
talk to him.
Okay.
And I'll send you guys links to this. If you're interested, you can read it, but there's a lot of work going on. And my goal at the House of the Seven Gables, we have 7 historic buildings on this property, and we're in an historic, National Historic District, Landmark District neighborhood. We are a National Historic Landmark. And so we have, we're trying to serve as an example for the community so they can look and say, so homeowners could look and say, or property owners, you know, what can I do in the next 5 years that's going to help me from these floods we're getting? And what do I have to do in 20 years? What do I have to plan for? And then in 50 years, what are my options? You know, so we're hoping to kind of be a testing ground for some solution ideas.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's interesting.
yeah, that's good.
Interesting
Maybe you'd
subject there.
like to speak too when Sarah and Shannon do their thing.
Oh, they're the professionals. I'm just someone who's dealing with it, you know. But the planning for adaptations is interesting because there are a lot of kind of lower cost things that you can do that don't require, you know, you to build a bigger seawall or something like that.
Mm.
So there's lots of different options. I'll send you links to this. You guys can read them if you're interested.
Great, thank you.
Cool.
That's terrific. Okay. Oh, and speaking, well, it's so hard to get everything on the agenda. I don't know if we want to mention what's happening about Squires Pond land. I guess we'll just wait. But
About what?
well, so
Oh, we,
you all may remember that 15 Squires Pond Lane was the building with Rick Rivero where we thought we had achieved a wonderful compromise to prevent him from demolishing the building. And then basically he picked up the historic portion of the house rather than leaving it alone. And as I understand it, sort of rested it against a shed. And it's not entirely clear what his intentions are. So Jim Badera is looking into it, and we will keep you posted about what happens. But it's very concerning to look at, especially given that we met with that man 3 times. We had 3 different meetings with him, and Gordon and Luke both, and Lydia and I all went there and spoke with him about options. Gordon put a great deal of time in.
He submitted drawings for a building permit that talked about retaining the portion of the house that was meant to be retained, and then he dismantled it, which is not what's on the drawings that he submitted.
Yeah.
Which is grounds for a stop work order, although not abiding by a historical commission approval is not grounds for a stop work order. Violating the drawings that are submitted for a building permit is grounds for it. Anyway.
We'll see what happens. We probably shouldn't talk about it in detail because it's not on the agenda, but you all should know that that's in process, because if you happen to look down there, it's very upsetting.
Very upsetting.
I understand that it's not on the agenda, and you know, Rick should be present at least to get into the specifics, but you know, it would be helpful to take a hard look at you know, if someone's not applying for a demolition delay, and just moving forward. I mean, we should examine you know, how to prevent having that precedent being set for sure. You know, if that has to be on an agenda and having Rick involved, or if we can just discuss it.
We talked about when someone applies for a building permit now.
Yeah, I mean, there have to be some consequences.
We're gonna review the drawings to make sure that the drawings that they're using to apply for the building permit are consistent with what we approved in our meeting. And then a building permit will be issued after there's a stamp on the DOB drawing set that says, you know, this complies, because we're approving schematic drawings or design development drawings at best, and by the time they get to the building inspector, it's hard to say exactly what happens. So the consequence, I think, would be that he applies for, we look at it, it's not demolished. He applies for a building permit showing it's not demolished, consistent with what we approved. Then he demolishes it. Then he has the usual consequences, which stop work order and a fine from us, I think.
Right. So, and again, I want to leave, you know, the Squire Pond
Yeah, I'm talking
project
about in general.
specifically out of it, but you know, my thought is just that, you know, we've quite a bit of work, and the people before us have, you know, and I understand we've had multiple building inspectors, and there's room for things to slip through the cracks, and I don't think anybody's done anything horribly wrong, but it would be nice to know that there's, you know, some safeguard in place, or there's you know, there's some consequence to just taking down a house on a weekend and then figuring out how to best move forward after the fact, you know.
Right, it's upsetting, Luke.
Yeah, we are completely with you. And that's one of the great things about having more of a relationship with Jim. I'm hoping that we can really get some policies in writing about how we're dealing with the building department, so that if we continue to lose building inspectors, at least there's some continuity about how they deal with us. Because it seems like each time there's a new building inspector, he wasn't given any information about how to deal with us or what the procedures were. And I don't think anybody has. So it all ends up being, it still will be up to us to communicate with each one, but I would like to have, I don't know, that's.
And you had actually asked me to write something up, Marilyn. I have not done that, so I'm going to put that on my list.
I mean, I think to Luke's point, there has to, the town, it doesn't have to be us necessarily, but the town has to have some recourse when people just decide they're going to do whatever the heck they want to do. And
Well, there is a recourse, but apparently we have to go through procedures, and Jim is talking, I think, to town council about what the options are.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So the only thing left is the design guidelines. We didn't cover that.
And they are now posted on the town website. Lo and behold, after all those months of working on that project, so they're up.
Right.
So, and you know, of course, we may soon have a new website they'll be on, but at least they're on the town website, which is great.
Great.
So Susan, do you have minutes that we need to approve?
Oh, I didn't write it.
I was the acting
Jim did
secretary
I'm sorry.
for the March meeting.
Okay. And I forget where we are with that, Jim. Did we already approve them?
No.
We didn't approve them, but there were no corrections.
Right.
Sent
All
to me. Yeah.
So I
make
make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I second it.
Motion. Okay, word and
Aye.
second.
Sorry, Mary, you got out vote, you got out motion.
Max, aye. Tim, are you raised hand?
Aye.
Luke, are you aye?
You know, I believe I was absent.
Okay,
You
then
were.
you shouldn't be aye then.
Yeah.
Abstain. Okay, and then anything on accounting, Jim?
Nothing to add there.
Okay, and correspondence and social media, anything there? Not on my
No,
end.
nothing new, nothing new. Nope, there are no houses to sell in town, so nothing's sold.
Tell
Yeah.
me about it.
You must be dying. I know.
I should mention though, there were a lot of houses that were sold in the last couple of years, and we haven't met with very many historic houses about renovations. And there's a part of me that wonders if things are falling between the cracks about that.
Well, we did send out letters to 64 homeowners that had bought historic properties
Yep, we did what we
in
could.
the last 2 years, I think. So when I came, so. you
And
know.
we're communicating with the building department about what needs to be referred to us. So I'm not sure we could do much more, but
I mean, Jim, the building inspector, now has our inventory. And he is, I think he's gonna be really good about getting stuff to us. I think we laid that groundwork pretty clearly, and he wants to collaborate with us,
I will
apparently.
also say that in watching the last year's inventory sell, there were things that did not need work, and anything that did sold for much over asking. And I'm sure Luke can attest to the fact that everyone's sort of booked solid. So as far as construction is concerned, so we might be seeing a delay because people were holding on to money to buy a house that then they used to meet the market's expansion. And then when looking at like, as you know, I part-time with some designs with Thor, and we're booking to like December of next year at the moment, because so we're probably going to see that a little delayed than usual.
okay, thank you. That's helpful to know.
The other thing is, as of week before last, when I checked, they had 80 some odd permits that were waiting to be issued, and they were like backed up. They brought Victor back into town just to try to whittle the way through the pile, and Jim is very good at looking at the details and going over everything prior to issuing a permit. So there may be there may be stuff about to come our way, because I think they're whittling their way through that pile.
Mhm.
So-
Okay.
All right, so our next meeting on the agenda, it says it's 5/4, but you all know that's incorrect. We're meeting next on 5/11
Yes.
at 5 p.m. And I will miss being with all of you, but I'll see you in June.
You'll be having a great time wherever.
Yeah, Meryl, travel well. Enjoy the
Yes,
family.
have fun.
Yes.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Sorry,
Bye-bye.
Jim, you and I should talk about the website. You and I should
Yes.
talk about the website, but I'll email you or something tomorrow, or you can email me. We'll set up a time to get together.
Great.
Bye,
Great.
everybody. I'm signing
Bye,
everybody
everybody.
off.
Okay, bye.